You're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz with your host, Alia Sinclair. Tune in for a new show every Friday at 106.5 KQWZ LP-FM, South King County.
Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz. I'm your host, Alia Sinclair, and today we're going to kick off with a segment I call Food for Thought. In the world of journalism, there is an abbreviation called TK. It stands for to come. It is used when you are writing a story, but you are not sure of a certain piece of information. For instance, if you need to reference the number of bookstores in a certain neighborhood in your piece, but you aren't sure how many bookstores there are, you can simply put TK and continue writing. This shortcut allows for an uninterrupted flow in your writing that would otherwise constantly be fragmented by having to stop and conduct research, sometimes for many hours, before continuing with what you were doing. Art can benefit from this same practice. How many times have you started a piece, or thought about starting a piece, only to realize you are not sure of a certain element? Perhaps you never learned a technique you want to utilize, or you don't have a certain tool. Maybe you feel like you need a comprehensive education in the form or medium before you can begin at all. But what if, instead of blocking yourself completely when you hit these obstacles, you simply put in a mental TK? True, you may not have the state-of-the-art equipment or all the education. Maybe you've never done it before, or you don't have quite the right color you need. But don't kill your process in its tracks when you'd otherwise stay in the flow. Throw in a TK and keep going. I'm willing to bet you'll find you can create more than you thought, and likely learned a good deal in the process. When you have the general form of what you hope to create, you can go back and spend the extra time on your TKs. It reminds me of the famous adage attributed to Confucius: "It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." The only real failure is not imperfection. It's failing to continue. Or worse, not starting at all. So, embrace the unknowns in your work, the stop signs that have tended to halt you in your track. Make a note of where they are, and plow on ahead, no matter how slowly.
You're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz with your host, Alia Sinclair, at 106.5 KQWZ LP-FM, South King County.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Alia Sinclair, and you're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz. Today I'm here with musician, composer, and co-founder of the arts organization Show Brazil, Eduardo, and I'm realizing I didn't ask a pronunciation on your last name. Can you tell me how to pronounce it?
Sure, Mendonça.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't try it. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd love to start with just an overview with you of you as an artist. I know you've got a lot going on. You've done a lot of things, and I know it's probably a lot to encapsulate, but I'd just like to hear a little about your background, especially your relationship with music and kind of how you got from, wee baby Eduardo to where you are today.
Sure. So I was born in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. Salvador is a place that is not well known outside of Brazil. When you talking about Brazil, overseas, we talk about Rio, you talk about São Paulo, but you don't talk much about Salvador, Bahia.
Right.
And it's very important. I can say it's culturally, it's one of the most important states in Brazil. That's where the Portuguese first land in Brazil in 1500 was that point, where they just arrived, and then the history was almost the same in Americas by bringing the Africans to be slaves in Brazil. So today we have the largest African descent population outside of the Africa that place that I was born. So since the music is very rich. So we have a strong presence of African Brazilian music and rhythms. At the same point, we also had influences from Portuguese with the music that broke from Portugal, and say as well a little bit about the indigenous people. And that was born in that place. There was exposure for many different styles of music that makes me who I am right now. So I used to say I have no label. Like I don't play this style of music. I do this. I do everything. Because I was born by embracing many different aspects of the culture in Brazil, and I took it.
Is music education part of the culture for children? Like, do they teach the children music at large, or is it something you just picked up?
Was something that I picked up. In Brazil, as many other countries, like the tradition is more passed orally.
Oh yeah.
And the schools traditionally is not about to help the young people to understand their own culture. It's pretty much on their own. So
really?
on their own with the families, with the neighborhood. That's the way that's passing by. Even when you got the higher education and music. That's changed a little bit today. I can see that. I don't want to be like extreme, but even the European music was what was about on the schools.
So very like westernized, European.
Western European. But now we have educators, we have younger people that starts like to break these barriers by introducing and doing even at the higher level of education a bit of our music, our heritage.
I love hearing that. What's the first instrument you kind of took to as a kid?
Yeah, that was guitar.
Yes.
My family, this all musical people.
Yes.
I was the only one that became a professional in the area, but it was a large family. My father, my mother, and 7 siblings. So we have like 10 people at home. And the weekends was so wonderful to see everybody playing music and singing together, and my mother fixing amazing food. That's the environment that I was born. I was the number 7 of 8 kids, so I had a lot to learn from my older brothers and sisters. I feel fortunate to have this experience from home. And guitar was my first instrument at age of 10. Because my family used to play the guitar, I was fascinated by the instrument.
Yes, I love that. I also have 7 siblings, and some of them are musical, but I'm right in the middle, and I resonate with that, learning from them and watching them, and yeah, it's a great environment. So you and everything you do kind of came into my sphere because the Roadhouse, the performance venue, was founded, I think, last October?
Yes.
Yeah, in SeaTac, or near the SeaTac transit station, right?
Right, it's right at the
transit
station, right there.
Yeah, so I would love to hear about that project. That's a big project, and it's very cool to have a performance space in South King County, in SeaTac in particular. I live in SeaTac, so I was very excited to hear about it.
Wonderful. I'm very excited with the Roadhouse. The Roadhouse, it was a space that was open together with the Angle Lake Station, and nothing happened there. It was an empty space for all of these years. And the Sound Transit and the START, the arts organization, arts department within the Sound Transit, they together proposed that pilot program where is actually we are the first venue in the United States that is supported by a transportation agency.
Yeah, that's not a common combination.
No, this is unique.
Yeah.
This is unique. So for those that lives in SeaTac, I would say, wow, we have to be proud of ourselves to have an initiative, robust initiative like this.
Yeah.
And as a result, the whole South King County benefit from there because we don't have much spaces like the Roadhouse, because the Roadhouse is unique.
Yes,
it's we are not a bar, you are in or a restaurant or a performance center. It's a community performing space, community performance space. So we have two programs that we design. That one is Who is in the Station that happen every month, and the other one is the Sounds of the Roadhouse that happen every quarter, where we bring organizations or musicians and artists to the Roadhouse, and both programs are free to the audience and for all ages. It's and the styles of music that embrace is diverse.
Yeah.
So we really want to the Roadhouse be a place that can be a fit for the diversity that we already have here at the South King County.
Yeah, very diverse place, and it's awesome to have a place where all that can come together. I read on the Roadhouse website that South King County had quite a musical history. There used to be a lot of dance halls and such between the 1930s and 1960s. Can you tell me a little more about that? I was very intrigued to learn that, and maybe if you have any idea what happened, like why they all disappeared.
Yeah, so the Roadhouse for sure is rescuing
That legacy.
the legacy,
Yeah.
because in the past we did not have the I-5. Like the corridor was the 99, the Aurora, what's it called? So they just part of the King County, in the South King County, was where you had the more vibrant road houses and houses of shows. For example, the Spanish Castle, that was very important, where Jimi Hendrix used to do the gigs there.
Yes,
and
so
his
cool.
music in Magic Castle was inspired here in Des Moines, in the South King County. So with the development, everything starts to be more centered in Seattle, right? And there is a huge disparity, I think, because the most of things happen in Seattle, and the gentrification is moving people to the side, to the south.
Yeah.
So, and then the gap we have is or the residents for the South King County, or you go to Seattle, or you don't go anywhere, or stay at home.
Very
so
true.
The Roadhouse, for sure, is a space that little by little people will start to understand that is a place for all of us that live in the South King County, and then you saving the legacy.
Yes.
And they'll bring back again the importance for the South King County.
I love that. I've talked to a few people on this show who are talking about, they're talking about Seattle specifically, but what a hub for the arts it was. I was speaking to an actor a few weeks ago who said he moved to Seattle in the 80s specifically because it's where it was happening. And like we know about, the grunge movement and Kurt Cobain launching and all of that. But it's somewhat of a head scratcher for me to be like, again, like even in a couple decades since like the 80s or the 90s, what happened? I mean, I think it's a combination of things. But I love seeing the renaissance of the reclamation of some of that, like in the Roadhouse.
Right. The Roadhouse is not only a place for concerts. Also, we have the spaces available for rehearsals, for meetings, for celebrate your birthday party, like anything that you can use that space that's very well located. So we have 1,300 free spots for parking.
Oh wow!
Which is huge.
That is huge.
And sometimes maybe you ask, but how about the games? You see that the place it's taken. You still have 10 spots reserved for the Roadhouse in the garage. So even so, the garage is full for commute or games in Seattle. People does park in there and then commute to Seattle for games. We still have this space, and there also is easy access, right? If you take the train from anywhere, including now we're expanding to Federal Way. So, and then we have very easy access for those that don't want to drive or don't drive at all. So take the train and then get off the escalator, and then you're there.
And then you're there, yeah. How's it going so far? Because I believe, was it October when you opened? So how has the community embraced the space?
Yes, the community is embraced. What you need for the community is to attend more and tell more about the Roadhouse.
And get the word out.
To get the word out. But we see how many people is attending. the diversity of our programs. We had, for example, in one night, we have G. Bradford, who lives in Burien, playing R&B, the young man playing R&B, and they also have one elder playing jazz who lives in Puyallup. So both in one night, they share the stage. So we are looking for thinking outside of the box, like people that are walking in there. We see diversity literally in the music, in the presence. We had the Caribbean night already. Or we had the Polynesian dance. Next month, we'll have the Arabic dance and music. In May, we have the 3 mariachi bands from Highline School.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So that's just a few examples that the Roadhouse has been serving our community. And thanks so much for giving this space that we can also tell, because as a new initiative, more and more people need to know that we exist and they can use this space.
I agree. So anyone out there listening, the Roadhouse exists, is available both as a venue and to come hear a wide range of music. That's very exciting. And I, as someone who lives close by, want to start attending. And you can find what's coming up on the website, the Roadhouse website?
Yes.
Is it roadhouse.art? Art. Okay.
The roadhouse.art.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. So that's very exciting. And amazingly, just one of the many things you've got going on. Though I'd love to talk too about Brazil Fest. I understand it's a cultural event at the Seattle Center that you've helped produce for 25 years.
Yes. So the Brazil Fest is our child. So my wife and I, we created that festival.
Oh, wow.
We put that together in 1999.
Wow.
And again, that's the reason for Brazil Fest was inclusion. So who walks to Brazil Fest at the Seattle Center, and one Sunday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., we'll be walking in the streets of Brazil without being there. Without get out of Seattle, right?
Yeah.
And because of the diversity in music and dance and food, children's activities, films it's very unique. So we have been growing. We start with 3,000 people. Now we have every year we see the audience increasing. And the last year we had 17,000 people attending the festival.
17,000?
Yes.
That's so many. So it's a festival. What's all involved? Is it everything you'd think from a festival, the food, the dance, the decorations, all of that? And it spans one day?
One day.
Yeah.
One day. This year will be, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be August 18.
Okay.
And at the Seattle Center. Again, it's a free festival. It's for all ages. And I strongly encourage everyone to go and see the diversity of Brazil. Because we're not focused in one style, in one kind of music or dance.
Right.
So you can see a rich array of cultural manifestations in the festival.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I have to admit, getting prepared for this talk and reading about everything you do, I got tired just reading it. I was just like, how do you find the motivation to do so many things? Well, yeah. Do you have a question for that? Is it just the pure love of the music and the inspiration? Because it's just you also have your production company,
right?
Show Brazil,
right? Yeah, I have a passion for what I do.
Yeah.
What I do is, if some people say, "Oh, you have lots of hats. You do too many things." It's true, but if you look carefully, it's everything around arts and education.
Oh, right.
Everything is around. Even with the production aspect, to have Ana Paula and I producing that festival, to have now Show Brazil managing that space, it's not merely administrative thing. So we breathe arts.
Yeah.
So we think, what's the diversity should be here? Who could be in here in this space, how many more people can bring in, how can make this accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
So there is a lots of things that goes around that as well. It's another layer on myself as a musician. So there is no, for me, what's not difference. Like be on my desk, working in the programming and all the documentation in there, and as well go to the stage and play and performing. To me, they are all one thing, one big thing related to arts and education that I love to do.
Well, that's great because I think a lot of artists struggle with the business aspect. They're like paperwork, ugh, bureaucracy, ugh. And I've talked to a lot of artists and some that are full time. The thing that's true across the board in different artistic walks is they have to make their own way when it comes to a profession. And so I'm wondering what your experience with it. It is not easy to be a professional musician.
No.
It is not easy.
No, it's not.
And so if you could share a little bit about what your experience has been, what your walk has been like, what you would tell a young person who also wants to make a life in music in this day and age, of all days and ages, what would you say?
This is a very good question because I'm always been a musician and educator, but I confess, when I was out of my high school, going to the college, I had a huge question in my head, like, may I survive doing this?
Yeah.
And even seeing my colleagues, my fellow musicians struggling, literally struggling that, I felt that sometimes at that point I thought I have to do something else, like have a daytime job and do something else. So today I refuse to talk about daytime job because what you do is a job.
Right. Yeah.
And serious job.
Yeah.
Right? And what I'd say for young musicians and for musicians, we need to rethink the way that people think about musicians and the way that you think about yourselves. I always say, I was this week teaching in one school in Seattle, that one kid, young people ask me that question. I say, musicians also, they eat. They, they pay mortgage or rent, right? And what I want to say with this is we need to rethink the way that there's a perception about who is the artist. The artist is not that one that say, oh, please come and play this music here because it's going to be amazing exposure for you, right? We have to start first moving this concept.
Yes.
Right? Because saying that my suggestion for musicians and the young people to rethink about to give yourself respect.
Yeah.
And they ask for respect.
Yeah.
That's because we don't go to a lawyer and they say, could you please take care of my case? If you take care of my case, I will tell everybody that how good you are, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to the doctor and say, if you treat me, I will tell you, if you treat me for free, I will tell how, but they don't hear that.
Right.
But we do hear that.
Right.
And sometimes you do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go jump in and do it. So we need to rethink. We need to rethink about that. Fundraising, there's lots of organizations, let's do a fundraising, it's a volunteer thing. They have money to pay for the facility. They have money to pay for the catering service.
Right.
They have money to pay for the sound system. They have money to pay for advertising. And then when you come to the musicians, they say, oh, this is a non-profit. I understand the word. But also, I think, needs to be set a decent budget for musicians in the same way that you budget for other things. That's so simple. There is no math that you need to do. Just to say I am important like everybody else.
Yeah.
I do my daytime job is being a musician because we rehearse, you prepare your music, you practice.
Yeah.
Right, to prepare is not only to go to the stage. There is a lot of work that goes behind. So I would say for fellow musicians, yes, it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard, but we need to be revolutionary. We need to think it differently.
Yeah.
And we start to say no for certain things.
Yes.
And in this way, you might be having these extraordinary musicians that's around there be dedicating more time for what they love instead of to be splitting their time to do something that sometimes they hate it, but they do it because they need it to survive. I understand that. And for the young people, yes, the young people, if you want to be a musician, if you want to be a professional musician, no musician because most of the time people are musicians without to be a professional musician. But if you want to go for this path, go forward. And also treat yourself like any other professional. Be on time for your appointment. If you go to the gig, be on time. Don't let people say, "Oh, the musicians get here late. They are late." Don't treat yourself like any other professional, delivering good quality of service, delivering a good music for yourself and for others, and as well to be a professional like others in terms to show up on time, in terms of to being there. I'm sure if more and more of us start to change behavior for what to do for ourselves and what people need to do for us, our profession will be easier.
I think you're right on the money about all of that. I'm also a musician, and I played a lot more when I was younger, but it used to drive me nuts. I remember once I was opening for this band, and they were so late. And I was like, when they told me, I'm like, can I go on? They're like, no, don't go on. The band's not here yet. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, get here on time. And it just seemed to be a given that, no, the band's going to be late. And I was like, no, that's not cool. So I love hearing someone else say that it's like, no, like, treat yourself as a professional. And it reminded me of a story, the actor Peter Dinklage. A story he was telling about how he worked in, I think it was insurance forever and ever, and want to be an actor, acting on the side, until one day he decided, no, I am an actor. From now on, I refuse to do anything that isn't acting. And what do you know? Like, he found the work, and there is, there are things sometimes you do need to teach or do what you got to do to survive. But I think you're right about that mental shift from, this is just, it's just, I don't have to take it. I shouldn't treat it as a job or take it that seriously, to like, no, I am a musician. I am a professional musician. And henceforth, that is how I will think of this. My job is this. So to anybody out there, especially young people, it's possible. And I love speaking to people like you and to people, other creatives who have made a path for themselves, because it's living proof that it is possible. It takes initiative, it takes courage, it takes resilience, it takes grit, but it is possible. No one's going to map it out for you in the same way as like law or medicine, the same way you were saying. But that's also kind of the fun, right?
Yeah, it's
creative
fun.
Professions, you got to create your own way. So I always like, I always like pointing that out when I can, because there are a lot of creative people who I think despair about ever being able to make a life of it.
Right.
So what captivates you most about Brazilian music? A lot of the things you've done are specifically about Brazil and amplifying Brazil and its culture and its music. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I have no label, right? So I can easily see myself playing in the jazzy settings with the few musicians and solos here and there. I can be seen play Brazilian dance music, like in carnival, like people jumping and dancing and screaming, and as well for the traditional music, because back in Brazil, in the neighborhood that I was growing up, there is a very strong traditional music and dancing, and I growing up on that. So I do play traditional music. I have a kind of knowledge on the Brazilian traditions, and that I put in my band. So we do play. And as educator, also I am storyteller when I performing, because it's not only to jump on the stage and play that music, but I give some information why I'm playing that music, where this music coming from. And in this aspect, also make us different. I have the honor to play with fantastic musicians with me. I have now the honor to be music director as well for I Build Bridges. It's an organization that works with 9 young people from the South King County, exercising youth development and mentorship in music. So they performed the last couple weeks ago at the Roadhouse. It was tremendous success. But to see these young people being who they are.
Yeah.
So we hear classical music, we hear rock and roll, we hear Lauren play her ukulele, so as gospel music. Everything was there in 2 hours, right? So this excitement that I have from my experience as a Brazilian musician growing up in the diverse place, I see this happen here now without to say you have to play the Brazilian music, but encouraging people
Right.
to do whatever they do in one place.
Yeah.
We are not a jazz place, we are not a rock and roll place, but to understand that the music needs to be seen and treated as bridges. We're connecting, we're not separate.
I love that. It is kind of odd, isn't it, how music got separated into these genres when it really is all just an expression. I mean, I assume that came from the music business and marketing, essentially, like, oh, this is so-and-so from such and such, and they represent blah, means this genre of music. Somewhere I was going with that. I don't remember what it is now, but it's just, the building bridges. I was going to ask about like arts placing in community. And I guess the genre thing was like how that's kind of an unnecessary fragmentation.
Right.
When it's like, no, this is kind of music is a universal language and it can bring us all together.
It is. And it's a clear in our musical world how this, let me say, how this division is clear. Like, okay, I am classical musician, so I don't mix with others. Or I play country, I don't mix with the other. I play this is wrong.
Yeah.
I think we all need to embrace what you like. I'm not saying that I'm against this or that style of music. In the contrary.
Yeah.
But why do we have to make walls between genres, between people?
Why?
Right? We don't need that.
No.
The Muslim music, I refuse to accept that.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's like limiting a painter and saying you can only use red and yellow.
Right. That's no
like,
sense.
Why? And you can only be like awarded on the red and yellow category. It's like, okay. So you've done some really cool things in your career. You've performed for the Dalai Lama and Pope John Paul II. And so, like, taking your career as a whole, what are some things you're most proud of or you feel like are your greatest triumphs as a musician?
It's very hard to, when I talk about performing to celebrities, as I did, it's rewarding, and the most being people like Dalai Lama and John Paul II. It's they're leaders for peace. Even they have like different perspectives, but they still talking about peace.
Yeah.
Or going to a place where you have like two or three people that doesn't know and they listen to my music is also important.
Yeah.
It's the concept of the celebrities for me. It's strange because I see everyone celebrities. That one that came to my show or to interact with me, I do respect them so much, so gratefully. Again, yes, performing for Dalai Lama, for the Brazilian president, for John Paul II. It's amazing. Yes. I love it to have this opportunity. One thing that I also love a lot was my experience by playing for Nelson Mandela. And the performance for Nelson Mandela was here in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Right? With the Urban Rhythm, was an African-American choir, which I was arranging some Brazilian music in there. And we got so disappointed because right at the beginning of the concert, we heard from whatever, FBI or the security things that you could not get together with Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela at all for safety. So we have literally the space they set us. We would never have access for him, just looking across the room, a big screen. And everybody so sad. Why are you here with Nelson Mandela? Cannot even see him. So, but Nelson Mandela did something unusual, and he said, I love, because he also has seen us through the screen. And they say, where these people are? And somebody say, oh, they are right there in the place that we could not have like visual content. And they say, I need to shake hands for everyone.
Good for him. Yeah.
And then everybody have to open spaces like that was not planned. The logistic was not done yet. So every single one came to the stage and shake the hands of Nelson Mandela. So that's another thing about to be a world leader as him, and to be humble.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's yes, definitely. This particular experience with Nelson Mandela made me appreciate even more these celebrities that say, I am a human being. I want to see that person. I want to shake their hands.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a really cool lesson to take from that. Oh my gosh, another mind blank. I had it in my hand and out it went. Oh, I was going to ask, do you get any sort of stage fright? Especially when it comes to these bigger, personas, or is it kind of all the same? It seemed like no matter how many years I played, there was always right before going on just like that it's like a zing of energy that comes up through the floor and just like the heart palpitations and all that. Do you have any of that, or does it go away with time?
That's very strange, this, for me, because I have backstage frightening. So I want to go to the stage.
I love that. Kind of born to be there.
Yes,
it's like
I want to go to the stage.
Or just like Michael Jackson say, like they're so shy in life, but on stage it's completely different. I like that. Maybe it's a lack of self-consciousness, maybe. Like maybe I need to be less self-conscious and then that will go away. I love that. So do you have a creative philosophy that kind of drives you?
Yeah, my philosophy is I always think outside of the box.
Yes.
When I compose, when I write a song, first the most of the time I don't want to be with my guitar in my hand because I don't want to drive the chords or the progression.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, after D, I have to go to D minor. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
I want to think differently.
Yeah.
So, and the way that I compose and the way that I work with I Build Bridges musicians, exactly, to thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
The music structure is there, yes, that is there. The music theory is there, but what we can do outside of the box. That's my philosophy. It's a do always different things.
Yeah.
Could be musically, could be with your lyrics.
Yeah.
Like how I can write.
Yeah.
In the way that I have not write yet.
Yeah.
Actually challenge yourself as well. I try to challenge myself. Oh, I already did it. How I can do this differently?
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I have this conflict with myself.
Yeah.
Like to say, hey, is that simple?
Make it harder.
Make it harder. It's fun. And sometimes you can do something very simple and creative. I am not saying we always have to look for the hard way. No. Sometimes just two chords progression can make a beautiful thing.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
But I drive my philosophy is even two chords progression and how I can be different. How I can, maybe the melody can be different. Or the music structure can be different. That's my philosophy. That's
a great philosophy.
And do different things.
Yeah, I love that. Do you find that the lyrics inform the music or vice versa? They kind of come together, like when you're writing a song?
Yeah, they come together. They come together with the lyrics. If I write instrumental music, for example, I don't have to worry about, later I have to write the lyrics for this. No, that's instrumental. Boom, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And if I come with the idea that comes with the lyrics, I have the message, and there you go that way. That's my style. It's instrumental here. I don't have to be conscious that what I'm doing, that's instrumental music. I don't have to worry about lyrics.
It's funny how pieces of art kind of tell you what they are. It'll be like, I'm instrumental, leave me alone, versus one who's like, no, I have something to say verbally.
Yeah.
So figure it out, musician. What do you have coming down the pike? What's on the calendar for you? It sounds like it'll probably be quite a bit, but are there things you'd like to draw some attention to in the next couple of months that you got going on?
Yeah, definitely. The Back to the Roadhouse is going to our website, theroadhouse.art, and even search us on the internet. You can find us now at
Yes.
several different places.
Love it.
It's to support, just to go and use it and to appreciate the diversity of musicians and dancers and the artists that's going there, and also make sure that if you need to use it for rehearsals and meetings and any other things, keep in mind that they have a space right here in the South King County, right here in
Right here.
SeaTac.
Yeah,
that
of
you
all
can use.
places. Yeah, that's very, very cool to know, and just getting the word out, because I think a lot of people just don't know or
Right.
wouldn't know. And lastly, a question that I ask a lot of people on the show is, do you have a personal mantra or motivational quote that you live by?
Well, this is very, very hard question because
is.
I don't have one. Sometimes I write a few quotes, my own quotes, and I'd love to read quotes for many celebrities or non-celebrities. But what I drive myself is it's about we are human beings. We are people, right? How can you keep treating each other as a human beings?
Yeah.
Like, and see others how you see yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it would be something that drives me around the quotes that I have been reading and liking.
Yeah, that's true. Our shared humanity. So from what I've learned, it's about shared humanity, inclusion, and thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
If you had to say Eduardo's whole creative philosophy altogether. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And thank you for joining us today for the B-Town Breakdown. You can join us next week on Friday at 6 p.m. at 106.5 KQWZ LP FM, or watch playbacks of this and past episodes on the Highline Heritage Museum's YouTube channel.
Tune in for a new show every Friday at 106.5 KQWZ LP FM, South King County.